Hey everyone, so today I've got a new video. We're going to be replacing the jack, the Ram jack, which I think is rated for 12,000 pounds, manual version, to a hydraulic jack from Primary Movers, which is rated for a similar weight rating. It's going to be a simple bolt-on and basically replacement with the jack. We're going to replace this one, we're just going to remove it. And then we have a whole new frame and new assembly for the jack with a cylinder in it, which is gonna make this a lot easier of a process when hooking up the trailer and disconnecting it. Given how heavy this trailer is, the DWB 7x14 with 14K axles. I do have a video coming up with kind of like a review for this trailer with all its features and whatnot, so be on the lookout for that if you're interested. And why I decided to purchase an Iron Bull DWB 7x14 over maybe, let's say, a Diamond C or a Max D, which were also in my kind of purchasing list when I was comparing trailers. But basically for this process, what we want to do is map out exactly how we're going to lay everything out from the beginning. So the kit comes with the hydraulic jack itself. It comes with the hosing, which you can select the length as to which hosing how long the hosing needs to be for your trailer. So you might want to measure that out before you order the kit. We can see it's just got 4 bolts right here, 2 on this side and 2 on the other. And we've got a nice channel that we can use in the I-beam. This is an 8-inch I-beam, so it's a nice little channel that we got access to route the piping. And my idea is that we're going to bring it to the original hole that the manufacturer has put in there already. And if that doesn't work, we might have to put a hole somewhere in the box to redirect the hosing. But I'm going to try to fit both of the hoses into the original hole that's already here. And that way we can install the valve either here or a little bit further down there. So this will be a good spot in the corner here because we can just open the toolbox and just, you know, mess with it here. We can't really store much here anyways, but I want to try to prevent using up any space for like chains and whatnot. So we're going to try to keep all the hosing on one side of the toolbox. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to begin by removing the jack, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of what's in the kit that came with the kit basically. And then I'll bring you guys back when I've got the jack replaced. So the kit basically came with the 2 hoses that we selected. I don't remember the length that I chose, but hopefully it's going to be enough. I believe they're like 28 inches or more, maybe 36 inches. Might be 3 feet rather than 2 feet. But these are the 2 hoses that you can select the length for based on where your jack is and where you're going to put the valve. And then these 2 are usually fixed lengths. I think they come the same for every kit. This is basically from the pump to the valve as the inputs and return lines. And then you've already got the 2 lines from your cylinder that's lifting the trailer in the first place. So you got adding 2 new connections here for this new jack. And then you're going to be reusing the lines from your cylinder in the rear. And then this is kind of like the main star of the show, basically, that makes all of this possible. You don't have to buy an extra pump or anything like that. This guy will cover everything for you. So it's a little bit of a cheaper alternative than buying a whole new system or a whole new pump and then taking up extra space inside your toolbox as well. So here's the valve that they provide. It's basically a handle that you can, it's a 1/4 turn handle that you can turn counterclockwise here to basically switch from either this output here or the other output on the other side. These 2 right here are the inputs. You can see when I turn the valve, it basically redirects flow. This one is always open no matter how we turn the handle. There's no paperwork that explains this, but it's just kind of tough to do with one hand. But there it is. It's always open, which means it's either these holes that are open or these holes that are open. So you can have one of them as the return line and one of the feed lines, and that's how you basically mount this valve. Unfortunately, they don't provide any bolting or any bolts or anything like that to hook this up to mount it to the toolbox, so you might need to find those on your own. They're about like 1/4-inch bolts or something, and then have like a spacer in the back, so you kind of space it away from the wall a little bit like this, which I'll show you. Maybe a piece of wood or something in the back to give it a little bit of clearance as well. So that's basically everything that comes in the kit, and then you just have adapters for the hosing. Got my tools ready. I've got a ratchet for 3/4, and I've also got a fixed end on 3/4. So I'm going to hold the bolt on the inside once it starts getting loosened, and we're just going to start undoing this. I do have the trailer supported. It's very tight. There's that. We've got the jack removed, and it was kind of tough to do. It would have been a lot easier to do with a 1/2-inch impact, which I forgot, or an extension, which I also didn't bring. So if you have some tight corners like this, it might be better to plan ahead there. But I worked with what I had, and we've got it removed. So now I'm going to lift this guy out of here. It's not that heavy. The hydraulic one is a little bit heavier, which is going to be a little bit tougher to put in, but you can also kind of sneak it in from the bottom as well. So let me get that guy mounted and good to go. So we've got the jack installed. It was a lot easier to install this guy than it was to remove the old one, and you can see how beefy this guy is. It's extremely heavy duty. The plate here is probably a 1/2-inch plate, the adapter plate, and I did not need to do any kind of drilling or any changes to the existing holes already. I was able to move the bolts around and just basically remove the bolts and bolt on the new one. So it was a super easy, just basically take out the old one, put on the new one. process, and I didn't have to do any fiddling or any kind of, metal work to make this work. So jack's in. I've got all the old bolts that are the same ones that were on the old jack. The new one did not come with any bolts or any mounting hardware. I also have run the hosing here. You can see this is a 72-inch hosing, and we've got it run through the I-beam here with the existing wiring along with this guy here inside in this I-beam channel, and then we ran it across here, and then inside we could see that I've got it pulled out from the same hole, so there is enough room to run 2 more pipes. So they've given adequate space to do any personalizations to this trailer, which is a really nice feature if you're kind of like a DIY person that likes to work on their equipment. So I've got it ran. This is, like I said, 72 inches. I need to pull it up a little bit more just so we can fit here. It might be better if you have a 90 for this purpose, but I don't, so I'm just gonna basically use straight up hoses like this, and then you'll see kind of like a swivel outside. Like I said, it might be a little bit cleaner to have a 90-degree bend here, but that might restrict flow and whatnot and create issues in terms of leaking points, and I'm just going to do it the way with reducing adapters basically. So we have an adapter that came with the kit. We have the flat face to the cone that go in these hoses here, and that it ends up just about basically right here. But we also need to be able to redirect the existing hosing for the scissor jack to lift the dump, so they need to be able to twist around. So if I put the valve here, you can kind of see what I mean. We can use the 2 holes on the right here where my pinky is to install the hydraulic jack lines, and we need to install the cylinder for the dump bed. Those lines need to go on the left side here, so they need to be able to undo from there where they're existing to the pump directly, and we're going to redirect them and kind of bend them around to go into there. And then we're going to have the little 18-inch lines here that are going to bring us power from the pump to the valve, and then a return line from the valve to the pump. So this is the idea. A relative spot is right around here. I may end up putting it on this side just because of clearance purposes. Also, I want to reduce the strain on these hoses here, but what's limiting me is the 18-inch hose that may or may not fit up to this point. So I'm gonna need to figure that out, kind of play around with things a little bit, and then once I've got it all installed, I'll give you guys an overview as to what I ended up doing at the end, and then we'll give it a little test and see if it functions. So I'll see you guys back once I've got everything installed. So I know I said I wouldn't use elbows, but I ended up purchasing elbows. I needed them because the pipes from the existing scissor lift were too short, and they couldn't bend around to come into these fittings. So I had to go get some 3/8 JIC male to female elbows, 90-degree bends, and that's how I made this work. I could not do it without it. I couldn't move this valve anymore this way because of the battery, and then I couldn't take it too far out that way because the 18-inch pipes were too short. So these were like $5 a piece. This was a cheaper alternative to having a whole pipe made that's a little bit longer, just maybe like 10 inches longer. But this is what I've got so far. You can see it's still not fixed in place. It's still moving around. So I've got the 2 holes marked in the back. You can see right there, one's right there and the other's right there. And what I'm gonna do is I've just got a scrap piece of wood here that I'm gonna put holes in as well, to align with the back of this, just so I can space it away from the wall a little bit. I don't want to use metal because it could rust and whatnot, so to avoid those issues, I'm going to use a piece of wood. If anything goes wrong ever, I can just replace it. So that's that solution to get it fixed up to the wall like this. You can see the 18-inch pipes. I did have to do a little bit of a loop like behind the battery here. You can see it's a little tight, but I got it to work. And then we've got the elbows here, and since I went to buy elbows anyways, I ended up buying 2 more 90s to make this look a little bit cleaner. So this is now perfectly tucked up against the jack. I'm going to end up zip tying it somewhere here to keep it away from kind of rubbing up against anything. I forgot to mention that there was a 6mm plug in each of these, so you will need a 6mm Allen wrench to remove those plugs and to install the adapters that they've provided. The flat face to the conic GIC fittings. So this is what the elbows did. I could have purchased elbows that just screw straight into the valve without having you know, this base. I could have snugged it up a little bit better. So I could have removed the adapter, but I kind of wanted it to move away from the valve a little bit, just so it turns out a little bit cleaner, so we don't have any rubbing against here or anything like that. So that's basically the plumbing completed. We may have to flip these pipes for the cylinder for the jack, because at the moment I don't know which one brings it up and down, and so it's either or. So I'm just gonna do a kind of a hit in the, or you know, shot in the dark type of thing, and if it's wrong, then I'm just gonna flip them. Otherwise, it's pretty simple to do the plumbing. They don't provide any paperwork or any instructions, but pretty much this valve, the input here feeds these 2 outputs, so it can switch between these 2 outputs, and then same thing with the bottom one, it can switch between those 2 outputs. So whatever you remove from the pump itself, a good way to do it is to just remember the top pipe can go in the top input, and then the bottom pipe can go in the bottom input, and then you can follow that same procedure, top and bottom, to match top with top, and then the bottom one with the bottom one. That way the trailer's functions are going to be back to normal like they were, as long as you've got this flip to feed the scissor jack. But otherwise you just need to kind of play around with these pipes a little bit to see which ones are in the correct orientation. Other than that, I kind of completed the goal of not, you know, taking up too much space. We can still store a little bit of stuff here, maybe like paint or whatever, touch-up paint. Nothing too rough that can mess with the piping, but we've, you know, it doesn't take up too much space. The pipe routing is done very well, so I'm just gonna leave it as is now. I think I'm gonna call this perfect, and I'm gonna end up drilling the holes in the back. And I've got 2 bolts. These are about 1/4 mm or 1/4 inch, and I've got 2 washers and a nut. I just had these laying around. They did not come with the kit, but you will need something like this to mount the valve, and you can see it fits perfectly in that hole. So I've got 2 of those. I'm going to drill holes in the piece of wood, and then drill holes in the back, and then I'm going to insert the bolt from the back in, just so I have access to the nut inside. So that's the plan. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll bring you guys back to give you a little test run of everything and make sure everything is running smooth. And I think that's going to be the end. So we finally got it all installed. It did fight with us a little bit because these hoses were having trouble fitting snugly back there. It was pushing the battery out of the way, and I had a lot of issues. I accidentally forgot to tighten one of the connections, and I hit the button to raise the bed because I wanted to make the holes in the back, and I guess it became loose from this guy dangling around all over the place. So I got a little bit of oil overflow, so I had to clean that up. So it was a little bit tougher than it should have been, but we could see the routing is all good. We've got the valve installed nice and snug, and then all we have to do is flip the lever at a 1/4 turn, and then use the pump like normal. And then we can see the cylinder itself is perfectly installed. I've got the cap installed, I've got the 90s in place, got everything tightened and good to go. Now all we have to do is test the pump or the cylinder. So I had to switch the pipe hosing around. Like I said, those two hoses were basically a hit or miss, and they were backwards, so I just had to flip them. But now when I hit the down button, we could see, all right, let's do up first. We could see that the cylinder does indeed, basically the trailer comes down, and then the trailer goes up, is how I have the hoses connected. So if we say up, see it lifts the entire trailer. So I guess this is maximum height, but this is more than enough for any truck. I did have it on this piece of wood, so now I can just take it all the way in, no problem. There we go. So cylinder's installed. Now we can, actually I'm going to lower it all the way down. Just like that. Now we just need to flip this the other way, and then if we hit, if I can get this guy out of the way, and if we hit down, there is air in the system from us removing and putting back in. I think we need to add some oil, since I lost some while it leaked, and then the cylinder, this cylinder also filled up, so, and the hosing. So now I need to add some oil to compensate for that. But for now, everything functions. Everything's good. And that's basically the entire install for this. I do have two elbows that I'm going to put on my other trailer, because I have the same jack, but I left it at a bend like that. So I'm going to put these elbows, or 90s, on that one, so the pipes aren't straining or they aren't sticking out, so it could hook onto something. This looks a lot cleaner. The pipe can't rub anywhere. It's not gonna create any issues. Everything is all nice and tucked away, so it's not getting in the way anywhere. And yeah, so that's basically the entire installation. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comment section below, and give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already. Don't forget to subscribe for more projects like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.